We're back with another tip line episode, and this time it's about Clippy. So, viva la Clippy revolution, or something. Also, talking about QR code scams and malware attacks, potential problems with battery banks again. They catch on fire again, but this time they were sold in airports. So that's great. You get ripped off for the price of it, and then it catches on fire, and you get interrogated by a 3-letter agency probably as a result of that. Also, the used game market for Nintendo potentially at risk as a result of some of their banning policies. And the Public Interest Research Group has published a report on device repairability, and they've given out some pretty good grades. A lot of bad grades, but some pretty good ones as well. So that's at least the positive side of things, plus a new designation for the Internet Archive. Let's get into it. This video is brought to you by the thousands of Clippies in our audience who've bought one of our GPU black market backer tiers on the store, on store.gamersnexus.net. These tiers include a variety of GN store items, like our blind eye t-shirts with the idiomatic expression on it, and cyberpunk style art, blacklisted shirts, our glassware, and more. They're also the only way to get our exclusive bonus videos for the Black Market GPUs investigation, and because we hit our stretch goal target, every single backer tier will include a 128GB USB key with a copy of the movie on it. If you've wanted physical media that preserves a copy of the content, you can grab a tier for that. Visit store.gamersnexus.net to support GN and GNCA directly, and to the Clippy Army, thanks for your support. Now, every revolution needs a hero. It's the sentences that get you banned from YouTube. And friend of the channel and consumer rights activist Louis Rossmann has found that hero. It's Clippy, as in from the old Microsoft software, that Clippy. But he was once hated, and now we've realized we were too hard on Clippy. He didn't deserve that hate. As Louis says, Clippy just wanted to help.
Clippy simply wanted to help. He might have been annoying, but he just wanted to help.
If you've seen a flood of thousands of Clippies in the comments, we can help to elucidate why that is. Louis Rossmann recently encouraged people to change their profile picture on YouTube, Slack, and everywhere else to Clippy to demonstrate solidarity against tech companies stripping away consumer rights, product ownership, and generally just sucking. The internet is now awash in Clippy. We've seen many Clippy images on comments in our videos, and we're sure there are Clippy comments on this very video too, and if there aren't, get to work. Maybe Clippy will even beat the bot comments. Although it'll be a cold day in hell when the bot comments co-opt the Clippy movement and realize that it's not the bot profile pictures people want to see, it's Clippy. That's when the scams will start working. Now, Louis chose Clippy because the anthropomorphic paperclip just wanted to help. And Louis may be on to something because, as he says, Clippy was never gonna sell your data. He couldn't even monitor it. Clippy didn't know really what you were doing. He couldn't keylog you and send that information out for your device to later be disabled or for your information to be sold and used against you somehow, sold to advertising. Clippy was there to support you. He was not very good at it, but he tried. And in today's world of enshittification, it was a more innocent time, and his benevolent nature has made him into a symbol.
Clippy's a symbol that what used to be considered one of the worst annoyances in our life would now not only be welcomed, but for all of his flaws, celebrated as an idol. Because for all of these things that occur right now where there is negative malice of intent, I want to take away what you own. I want to take this back. I want to get your data. I want to sell you to an advertiser when I know that you're crying. Clippy just wanted to help. And if you were to turn him on today, unlike most cloud bullshit, he'd still work.
And the best news of the last few weeks is that the Clippy revolution has begun to garner mainstream attention. This is like, I was talking to Louis about this, and we were just talking about how it's always the videos that you really care about that no one watches, and then it's stuff like this where you just kind of put something out there that's a little bit meme-worthy and it blows up, and you're like, cool. I'm glad people liked it. I wish they would watch some of the other stuff, but I get it. Anyway, the Clippy revolution. It's gotten attention. Louis Rossmann told Fast Company that the Clippy video, which has more than like 4 million views at the time of writing this, was a throwaway video, he called it, that he recorded to, quote, talk about what was on my mind that day, end quote. Since then, results for Clippy on Google Trends have spiked. You can actually see the impact. The movement is having a result on real things, though. In a follow-up video, Louis Rossmann said that his consumer rights wiki has seen web traffic and editing contributions increase dramatically since he started the Clippy revolution. We'll link the Consumer Rights Wiki below. You should get involved, contribute to it if you have something to say, or just use it as a resource. Louis has said that he uses the wiki when he speaks to legislators or members of the media about consumer rights. Louis is also currently fighting AI surveillance cameras being installed in cities and has a separate video on that. And he's working on his newest videos called Dismantling the DMCA, I think, which is particularly interesting to us right now, and you can check that out for something meaningful and serious. We will probably be talking to him about that in the future and have a separate piece on it or something. Up next, based on a report from CNBC, QR codes are being used to scam and phish people. This is not really a surprise, but something you should be aware of. They can be used by basically people exploiting their ease and general obfuscation of where they're going to infect mobile devices and steal private information, and this has been labeled by a government agency, I think it was, yes, as quishing. Not like squishing, like quishing, as in QR code phishing. So probably could do with a better name. Anyway, CNBC said millions of people in the US have visited malicious sites after scanning QR codes. The outlet cited data from NordVPN. Quote, according to cybersecurity company NordVPN, 73% of Americans scan QR codes without verification, and more than 26 million have already been directed to malicious sites, end quote. CNBC said that the QR codes could be, quote, more dangerous than a traditional phishing email because users typically can't read or verify the encoded web address, end quote. CNBC spoke with several cybersecurity experts, including Dustin Brewer, a senior director at cybersecurity company Blue Voyant, and according to Brewer, there's evidence of nation-state intelligence agencies using QR codes to, quote, compromise messaging accounts of military personnel, end quote. Now, the use of QR codes for phishing or malware isn't new. It's literally just a link in a different format, but it's been in the news more lately for the prevalence being used in scams, and in particular, something to think about is QR codes are used in a lot of innocuous ways. So like increasingly there's restaurants you might go to, certainly a lot of them that I've been to in like Shenzhen, for example, where you sit down and there's no people to take your order. You scan a QR code on the table and place your order. And, you know, you kind of draw a line of, I'm not going to try and be obnoxious and annoying here, but I really would prefer to order either through a person or type in the address just as a safety precaution, because it wouldn't be difficult for someone malicious to go through and swap a QR code on a table and screw someone that way. But anyway, that's kind of is something to think about is when you're scanning these QR codes, even in places that seem innocuous, it could be an attack vector. If you can navigate to the site by just typing it into your browser, which is often the case, that is the better way to do it. Anyway, in January, the Federal Trade Commission warned consumers about QR code scams attached to unexpected packages. The U.S. Postal Inspection Service, the federal enforcement arm of the U.S. Postal Service, also updated its warnings about QR code scams earlier this year. The Postal Inspection Service described how bad actors use QR codes by saying, quote, scammers post physical images of QR codes in a high-traffic location or send them via email or text message. Once you scan the QR code, it takes you to a scammer's website, which may look legitimate, where the scammer lures you into providing personal or financial information. These scammers often attempt to disguise themselves as a government agency, a bank, or another company to lend legitimacy to their claims, end quote. The Postal Inspection Service says that the term quishing is short, again, for QR phishing. So in other words, it's just another name for a new phishing scheme. While we might quibble with the quixotic quishing verbiage, these warnings are a reminder to just maintain awareness of things like that. Even again, if you're in something like a restaurant where it seems pretty normal, yeah, you don't want to just like be a dick and deviate from the normal process out of an obscene amount of paranoia. But like if you have another way to access a website, you should do it if there's no indication that's where it goes, or try to find an app that can help you verify it safely. Up next, product repairability is back in the news. There's some good news in here. The main good news is that there is a new guide from the PIRG, or the Public Interest Research Group, that has compiled a bunch of devices and their repairability, and some of them have gotten good scores. A lot of them did not, but some are good. So, found via the register, the PIRG has a guide of 25 products with different scores and scorecards for them. The report is called Leaders and Laggards 2. And it assesses how easy it is for consumers to access repair information and spare parts for consoles, laptops, tablets, cell phones, dishwashers, basically consumer electronic devices or adjacent to that. PIRG, or PIRG, graded the overall repairability of all 25 products from F to A+. Many didn't receive a passing grade, with PIRG stating, quote, of those products, 40% received a D or an F, 28% received Bs or Cs, and 32% received As. Of these products, we could not assess a repair manual for 48%, and 44% had no spare parts available, end quote. Now, we'll focus on the gaming category to just highlight an area that we're familiar with. Obviously, you can go there if you want to check out other stuff, but PIRG graded multiple consoles, including the Valve Steam Deck, the MSI Claw A1M, Atari 2600 Plus, and Sony PlayStation 5 Slim. PIRG gave the Steam Deck an A+ grade, so congrats to Valve. Valve provides extensive repair documentation and parts for the Steam Deck at iFixit.com, so this is at least a positive side of the story. PIRG gave the other 3 consoles an F. MSI, Sony, and Atari all failed to provide repair documentation when PIRG contacted customer service agents. The MSI Claw deserves its F. As we said in our review, there's no reason to settle for good enough when better is cheaper. And as for other device manufacturers, PIRG didn't grade video game consoles from Microsoft or Nintendo, at least not as we're writing this. PIRG said the lack of repair information for consoles may be due to lobbying from trade groups that represent the console manufacturers. Right to repair laws for consoles have been excluded from some legislation, with the exception of New York. And we recommend reading the full report if you're interested in all the updates. Up next, some other good news. The San Francisco-based Internet Archive, which preserves the internet, like basically all of it, I don't know how they do it, has been designated as a federal depository library by a California senator. The senator made the designation by sending a letter to the U.S. Government Publishing Office, which runs the Federal Depository Library program. In the letter, the senator said that, quote, the Internet Archive will help remove barriers so that communities from across the nation and around the world can access federal government publications online. As a federal depository library, the archive will help the Government Publishing Office advance its mission to digitize and make federal government publications accessible, end quote. Now, back when this news came out, we saw a couple comments where people thought that this meant that the Internet Archive was somehow federalized or taken over by the U.S. government. That is not the case. That's not what's happened here. It is a depository library, so it can receive and store federal documentation in a way that, as stated here, makes it more accessible. But the U.S. government did not take ownership of it or anything like that. Now, according to Internet Archive's founder, the designation will help the archive collaborate with other libraries and access government materials. In an interview with KQED, Archive's founder said, quote, by being part of the program itself, it just gets us closer to the source of where the materials are coming from, so that it's more reliably delivered to the Internet Archive, to then be made available to the patrons of the Internet Archive or partner libraries, end quote. According to the Government Publishing Office, the Federal Depository Library Program, quote, was established by Congress in 1813 to ensure that the American public has access to government information in depository libraries throughout the U.S. and its territories, end quote. And assuredly, back in 1813, they were already expecting all of this would one day be found in a series of tubes known as the Internet. As we've talked about before, we frequently use Internet Archive's Wayback Machine to source material that's been taken offline, altered without notice, or otherwise obfuscated or removed through either a malicious intent or just because they changed something and it's not there anymore. And the archival tool is important for not just knowing kind of what you got or what the information used to be, but for holding companies accountable and governments accountable when they silently change things. So the Wayback Machine, we looked at their site and it says it has now saved 946 billion web pages over time, and the Internet Archive expects to reach 1 trillion web pages by October of this year. And as an aside, our Honeypot t-shirt remains available as a charity t-shirt on our store, where the profits are all donated to a few different groups, and the Internet Archive is one of them. We've already donated thousands of dollars to them this year via this t-shirt and other efforts. Now, in our last tip line episode, we talked about the Nintendo Switch bans of users who were deploying cartridges that could be used in piracy, whether or not they always are, and their devices being disabled as a result of that because of a violation of Nintendo's license agreement. Now we have an unsurprising update to the story. They're still banning stuff. Different reason this time. As spotted by IGN, which once again is 50% better than us, or we're 33% worse than them, depending on how you slice it. Reddit user Demanthe reported that Nintendo banned the Switch 2 they used from accessing online services after loading several used Switch 1 games. The Reddit user had purchased the used games from Facebook Marketplace. According to the user, the Switch 2 ban happened after downloading patches for the Switch 1 games. Timothy's Switch 2 console was banned the next day. These bans can happen when someone copies a Switch game by using third-party hardware and subsequently resells the original game. Tom's Hardware explains the process. Quote, an unscrupulous seller can copy the game they're selling to another microSD express card you can easily buy, and then sell the original cartridge as a used game. Since doing this copies all game information, including the original's unique identification number, Nintendo can detect if 2 copies of that specific game are loaded simultaneously anywhere in the world, telling them that it was pirated. They will then proceed and ban the specific console where the pirated game was loaded. End quote. In this case, Nintendo's support team helped Timothy fix the console since they had done nothing wrong, even by the licensing agreement. In an unfortunate era of AI support chatbots, Timothy even said that a real person with Nintendo support helped them out. Nintendo reportedly captured images of the cartridges from the Facebook Marketplace listing as well. Nintendo is known for its draconian approach to protect its intellectual property, and the company has tried to stomp out piracy like a Goomba for years. Now in this case, it seems like an innocent user got screwed. Could happen to you as well though. We've got a couple ideas for that, but on sort of the more cynical or concerning side as well, this would affect the used game market, and that certainly benefits the first-party sellers of those games. They've been trying to disrupt the used game market for years, even just through totally legitimate avenues like GameStop or something, and coincidentally it would be in the favor of the first-party sellers to do that. Now, Nintendo will need to maintain quality customer support to help customers who run into this issue, but if you're buying used Switch games, the thing to think about really is just save proof. As much as this is like a stupid thing you shouldn't have to do, but save proof that it's a used item purchase, screenshot the page or something, save a receipt if you get one. That way if they do happen to ban you, if this happened to occur, which is it's an unlikely sequence of events, but you would be able to produce some evidence to say that you had nothing to do with the part they're banning you for, and hopefully they help you out. Up next, if you've ever been in an airport and thought, this would be a suboptimal place to have something I own catch on fire spontaneously, then we've got good news for you. Your fears are validated. Airport vending machine supplier iStore is recalling one of its magnetic wireless power banks from the United States and Canada for fire and burn hazards. The United States Consumer Product Safety Commission, or CPSC, said the lithium-ion battery in the power banks can overheat and ignite while charging. Just gonna interrupt here and say this is now what, like the 3rd or 4th? I don't know how many tip line episodes we've done, not many, but it's like, I think we might be at 3 of 3 for battery banks that catch on fire. This appears to be a very common problem. Anyway, iStore sold the recalled power banks, model number IST-09991/W05, at vending machines in airports and online at istore.com from February 2023 through May of 2025. The power banks cost between $46 and $65, which really is the biggest scandal here, not the lighting on fire part. But then again, a bottle of water at an airport costs $6, and I know this because when I did the books for last year, I saw that we spent $88 on bottles of water at airports in 2024. That's a true story. I make sure the team's well hydrated, at any expense apparently. According to the CPSC, the recall affects 8,520 products sold in the United States and around 6,400 sold in Canada. iStore has received 3 reports of the products, quote, overheating and exploding, end quote, with 1 report burning a person's arm. People who bought the recalled power banks can contact iStore on its website and request a refund. The company is asking anyone with one of these devices to stop using it immediately and properly dispose of it. And again, it's not lost on us that this is literally the worst possible place to buy something that might catch on fire. You will probably speak to a 3-letter agency after it does so if you're on a plane. But if you have one of these power banks, you'll need to follow local rules and regulations for disposal. Lithium-ion batteries can't just be thrown in the trash. They can't just be recycled. But there are often agencies or nonprofits around that will take care of them. When Alienware isn't making bad pre-builts or trying to fix them finally, as we covered recently on GN, the company may be making bad monitors instead. Several reports have surfaced on Reddit about people having problems with the Dell Alienware AW2725Q monitor. According to the Reddit post, the Alienware monitors just stopped working. One post claimed the issue was widespread, saying, quote, this monitor is suffering from a major defect that caused the screen to go black, and the issue appears to be widespread. This is an ongoing problem affecting many users, end quote. Now, we actually had several viewers contact us about this as well, and so it appears to align with what's being talked about online. And thank you to those of you who've emailed us about this. You can always email tips, T-I-P-S, at GamersNexus.net if you'd like to inform us about some kind of issue with the product or a company. We probably will not reply. We get a lot of those emails, but we do at least skim all of the titles and then we read the ones that look like they might be important for us. So you can always email there. Now, a separate Reddit post aggregated many of the complaints from Alienware customers, with users sharing their experiences and trying to troubleshoot the issue. We counted more than 30 people reporting problems with this Alienware monitor in that thread. One user claims to have had the same issue on 3 monitor replacements. Dell support has replaced the non-functional monitors with refurbished versions, according to several users as well. Another Redditor has advice for prospective buyers of the monitor. Quote, if you're finding this thread as a potential buyer, just don't, end quote. Dell announced the 4K QD OLED monitor at CES in January, with it going on sale in March. It is sold for $900. And again, we haven't independently verified this particular complaint, but we've received a number of emails from you all about it. So thanks for sending those in. As always, thanks for watching. Subscribe for more. We've got a ton coming up on both channels. Got some case reviews and things like that over on GN. And then over here, we've got a couple of specialized news reports and mini investigations. So stay tuned for that. Subscribe for more as always. Go to store.gamersnexus.net to support us directly, or you can grab a shirt like this honeypot shirt if you want to support Internet Archive directly via us and some of the other groups that we donate to there. And we will see you all in the next one.